So if you run a service-based business, you already know the problem. You deliver the work first and hope to get paid later. That cash flow gap. So it's the silent revenue killer for millions of businesses. And today we're flipping that disadvantage into a strategic advantage and showing you how service providers are increasing revenue by up to 30% without taking on debt, stress, or financial risk. So Asaf Darash, founder of Regpack, is here, and he has helped service-based businesses turn delayed payments into just-in-time financing, so growth no longer depends on cash reserves. So it's so good to have you here. I'd love to jump into it if you don't
Sure.
mind. Most service businesses don't struggle because they're bad at what they do. What are they struggling with?
I would say that a lot of service-based businesses, the first thing that they're struggling with, I would divide it into two. Like the type of services that we work with a lot, it's either they deal with issues that are connected to having too many clients or too much business, and then they deal with quotas and they deal with time restraints. They deal mainly with operations, and they need to find a way to make that work because otherwise they'll be in the opposite situation where I would say that would be like 20 or 30% of our clients that are like that, and then the other 70% are they deal with the ability to grow. Okay, the
Right.
how to grow, how to market, how to and mainly how to take care of their cash flow,
Wow.
and and that is something that is very complicated for the organizations that we work with. Most of the organizations we work with are service-based businesses in the educational space, where you need to pre-register or decide that you want to do something either for a course, a camp, or a after-school program, a seminar, stuff like that. Okay, so what happens in these situations is it's a little different than what you said, where you do the service and then you get paid. There's actually the opposite. You normally need, because people need to pre-register. They actually need to take funds before to make sure that they reserve the spot and whatnot. Now there are those that take everything in advance, 6 months in advance. They take all the payments, right? And then they're struggling because most people are like, I'm not shelling like $1,000 or $2,000 for something that I will get 6 months from now.
Right.
Okay, so, and then
Yeah.
struggling because of that. Or there are the ones that take like a basic fee, like something like, I don't know, $50 or $100 to make sure to reserve your spot. And then what happens is when they reach the actual event or the actual class or whatnot, they're half empty because people bailed out and they were like, okay, I'll miss I won't have the $50, but I don't need to pay because I'm not coming to the course.
Right.
So we deal with all these complex situations that normal e-commerce and normal like just buying stuff doesn't deal with that. Because
Yeah.
think
It's all service based, right? Like, and I see that a lot. Even in my personal life, I have a service based business on the side, and it's like people don't want to pay up front, but if they don't pay up front, then they don't take it seriously and they don't show up, or they cancel really easily. It's because it's like they have no skin in the
exactly,
game. So it's
exactly,
this weird psychology.
exactly. So and then service-based businesses have another complexity that let's say normal businesses don't have, or product-based businesses don't have, where everything's connected to space and time. Okay, it's like
Mhm.
let's say you're doing a course, even an online course. Okay, there's a specific time that the course is happening. If there's a teacher or there's an instructor or whatnot, that's one. And then there's a limited space that is available. Like one instructor cannot take care of 3,000 students, right? They can only take care of, let's say, 50 students. And the same happens if you're doing even like an online course that is partial by themselves, and then the instructor steps in. So there's always the issue of time and space. And that is basically why most service-based businesses have an onboarding process, unlike product-based businesses. You have to onboard. Now, service-based businesses is also SaaS companies. It's also anything that you use in the computer. It's all service-based, right? So think of it like this: if you want to buy a shirt, even online, What's the onboarding process? Paying. That's basically
Hmm.
it. That's the whole onboarding process, and maybe giving your address so they'll send it to you, right? When you're working with service-based businesses, let's say camps, or even the more so when it's education, right? Like after school or schools themselves, universities, camps, seminars, stuff like that. You have to go through an onboarding process. You have to give some information. You have to check what people are eligible for. Not everybody can participate in every course or in every situation, right? It's not like a shirt. You want to buy the shirt, it doesn't fit you. That's not my problem, right? But here, it's like if you come to a course that you're not eligible for, that you don't have the basic knowledge to participate in, then you're hurting all the other students. So there's all these complexities that specifically RegPack takes care of all of these complexities, but we're not here to talk about that. We're actually here to talk about how all these advantages can turn into all these disadvantages can turn into an advantage, right? And that's something that we did at RegPack, mainly through the structure of the financing. Okay.
So,
Um,
what kind of businesses get hit the hardest by this model?
mm, the what do you mean by gets hit by the hardest?
So, the businesses that deal with the cash flow issue, like getting paid later, what
Oh,
types of businesses are struggling with that the most? Do you find?
from the data that we have, it's normally education-based businesses. Okay,
Okay.
they're hit the hardest. Anything connected to youth and activities, events, stuff like that, because what happens is that you have to register and you have to put some skin in the game at least 4 to 6 months before. That's what we normally see. And then the result of that is that they're in a catch-22. If you want to take all the money up front, you're creating such a barrier of entry that most people just can't participate.
Mm.
Okay. But if you're not taking everything up front, you're creating such a low barrier for entry that everybody just registers. And then you find yourself, when you're actually reaching the activity or the event, that you're half empty suddenly. And even though you got ready in terms of instructors and space and activities and so forth for, let's say, 1,000 people, eventually only 500, and you find 500 come, or 600 come, and you find that out only a month before everything is there. Now you as a business have to order all these things in advance, so you really are in a catch-22. Like, what do I do? Either, like, if I'm asking for all the money up front, I'm in a great cash flow issue, everything's fine. But I basically normally kill about 30 to 40% of the potential clients,
Right.
right? Whereas if I don't do that, I create a situation where I can get hit so hard that eventually the whole activity or the whole event is not worth it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of these
Interesting.
a lot of these like educational based service businesses deal with this situation all the time.
Mm. And then
Now,
they're dealing, so collecting money up front, even if it's just a portion, but then they also have to collect the rest of it later. So is that also a struggle that businesses have as well?
when businesses come to us and they tell us that they take part of the payment after the service is given, I tell them that I can't onboard them, because that is
Okay.
the worst business plan possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is a recipe for not getting paid. And
Right. Yeah,
especially
or
when
chasing
you're
people for
dealing
money.
with
Right.
especially when you're dealing with multiple, like, you have 100, 200, 300 clients, that's just a disaster waiting to happen. It's actually, the other day I was with my son at a restaurant and I was kidding with him. I was like, I don't understand this model. You sit down, you eat whatever you want, and they have no idea if you can pay. Like, I can get up now and just leave and nobody can
Right.
do anything. Right? It's so weird.
Yeah.
But there's like specific areas that's how everybody's used to doing it, right? Like restaurants and
Right.
all and so forth. But actually, in most service-based businesses, there's no reason to do that. You can take, sometimes they do it because they don't know how much the service will eventually cost, right?
Right.
But the way to do it is like to set a standard price, and then either refund some of it, or take or you're chasing them only for the delta, right? You're not chasing them for the whole amount.
Mm-hmm.
So that we, with organizations that do that we do work, and generally organizations that join that on board with Regpack, we do a lot of overhauling of their business practices to help them um, get much better results, because we see so many services-based businesses. We have thousands of these organizations that work with us, thousands and thousands. We register millions of people every year, right? So we've seen like what works, what doesn't work, how to do it best, how what to avoid, stuff like that. It's very simple from our
So
perspective.
at what point did you realize that it wasn't a cash problem, but a systems problem?
Actually, what happened here is that I think the fact that I lived a long time in Europe helped me understand that there's a problem, and that it makes a lot more sense to do it in a different way. I was talking to one of our clients, and then they told me that our ticket items are very expensive, and that's why we don't get enough clients, and we need your help in order to understand how to do it, the marketing better, and so forth. And then out of sheer the fact that I just didn't know, right? I lived in the US and I never understood why you can't pay in installments. Like why
Mhm.
if you're buying something at a store, they don't ask you how many installments. So I was just like, just pay, so let them pay in installments. And he was like, what are you talking about? It's like, just let them pay in installments with a credit card. Like, don't you have that option? And they told me no. I was like, okay. And I sat down. I was like, this is so ripe for something like this. The whole business structure is structured in a way that it makes total sense to allow installments, because you're creating a situation where it's a win-win for the clients and for the organization. And I'll explain why. Okay. Um, when I don't know if most Americans know, or Canadians, like in Europe, you can buy anything in installments. Anything. Like you swipe your credit card and you tell them like do it in 5 installments. Even if you're buying, I don't know, a t-shirt, you can do it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's like
Interesting.
basic. That's basic, right?
That's
So
interesting. Hmm.
okay, so in the US, it works differently, where you decide how much you're paying of your credit card bill, right? That's basically the installment method.
Yeah.
But you're paying the interest, and you need to decide on every moment like what's correct and whatnot. And but you still need to, let's say you're going to an event that costs $2,000, or sending your kid to a camp that costs, I don't know, $1,500. You still need to make that commitment right now on this month, right? So considering my experience with installments and all that, I was like, okay, let's see what we got here. And it's sort of all aligned. On the one hand, most of the organization demand that you register in advance, because there's a problem of time and space, because you have to understand who is participating and who is not. Okay, that's one. On the other hand, they don't really need the money right away for their financing, because the program is only happening 6 months in advance after.
Mm.
Okay. And then it was at the time that the whole thing of the buy now, pay later blew up. And I was looking into those type of technological products. And I understood that basically what they're doing is they're giving someone a loan. If I want to
Mm-hmm.
buy something for $1,000 now and pay later, they're basically giving me a $2,000 loan with interest and so forth. I was like, okay, but this is not the situation, because I'm not getting the product. So actually, what we can do is we can do just what is called just-in-time financing. We can make sure that the organization gets the money by the time the activity or the event or whatnot is being given. Since
Right.
people are registering in advance, we can use different algorithms. Today we also use AI to understand the risk level of the person and how many installments we can offer them. Now, once we do that, suddenly a $2,000 ticket item is not that hard, because if I'm actually coming to this event in 6 months, right, or in 4 months, I can pay $500 a month. That's doable. right? And I don't need to pay interest. Now,
Right.
a lot of people are sort of like baffled and they ask me, but why isn't there any interest payments here? Because it's a win-win situation for the organization. They lowered the barrier of entry of those exact people that didn't have the ability to pay. So from their perspective, just getting those extra people from let's say higher income families would cost them so much in marketing that they don't want to take interest.
Right.
Okay. And then for the people that come, it makes total sense for them because now they know, okay, I've committed for $500 a month. I can do that.
Hmm.
I can totally do that. And you basically take a huge disadvantage that these organizations had, where just so like a sneak peek into how payment processing works, if you have someone pay for something before they or there's a big lag between the moment of payment and getting the product or service, it's considered very high risk.
Hmm.
Okay? And then the fees are higher. Okay, so basically, what we did is we created a really win-win-win situation. The client can pay throughout the time from the moment that they registered until the moment they're getting the service. So let's say 4 months in advance, $500 a month. The organization is getting the money that they need in order to give the service just in time for when they're giving the service, right? And from the payment processing perspective, we lowered the risk considerably because basically what happened now is not all the payment is happening right 4 months in advance, but it's happening throughout those 4 months. So the risk on the first payment is high, but on the last payment is nearly zero.
Understood. So does this model work for any service-based business? Because what's coming to mind right now is how our world is saturated with online service-based businesses now. And so a business that might be newer, they're asking for, payments from new clients coming in, but they haven't provided the service yet. And I know there's a lot of trust issues right now in the world, right? Like if I give you a down payment of $1,000 on a $2,000 service now, but the service isn't for 6 months and I haven't met you before and I don't know your business that well, there's that trust factor. So can you speak to that a little bit?
First of all, yes, there's always a trust factor. Okay, we don't see that much specifically with our clients since they are educational organizations. So normally there's not that issue. But this model also lowers the trust factor, right? Because
Mm.
you're starting now. Now you can set the installments to start small and get larger as they progress. So basically, what you're creating is creating a situation where you know what, in the beginning, we're just taking like a bit of money from you, and then eventually, as you're getting closer, we're taking more. Now the biggest problem actually from a trust factor is that if you do the model of like pay $50 registration fee and pay everything a week before you come or a month before you come, there a lot of people fall off where they're like, okay, so I'm not coming and I lost $50, so who gives a shit, right?
Right.
And that's a real problem for the organization. But here you create a situation that by the time someone wants to cancel, they're pretty vested into payment. Let's say
Mm.
2 months in for the camp that I said, so $2,000, 4 months in advance. 2 months in, I decide I don't want to go. Now, it depends on obviously on the refund policy of the organization and so forth, but basically, the organization is not in a situation where they're just like, oh, please come, or let me fill the spot. It doesn't happen anymore. Now the organization says, okay, we have $1,000 we already have $1,000. What do you want to do? And they can
Right.
they can have a much more elaborate or a much more fair refund policy. Now, obviously, like there's business decisions to make here of how much you want to create trust with your clients, and clients that cancel, do you give them everything back? But then suddenly it's a business decision, a policy
Right.
decision. It's not okay. They twisted my arm. I don't have a choice.
Right. So what changes operationally once payments are structured differently?
First of all, there's a huge issue connected to cash flow. Okay. the whole cash flow issue disappears. So for the organization perspective, they know that they're reaching the time that they're giving the service without a sword over their head. They know that they can finance this because they already have, let's say, 90% of the money by the
Right.
time that they're starting. Okay, so that's huge. And just the cost of financing today is extremely high. And if you don't actually get approved for financing and so forth, all that goes away. Okay, so from an operational standpoint, from a financial standpoint, this is a huge thing for most organizations. That's one. Two, you can plan much better since you're allowing people, a lot more people to register because you lower the barrier of entry. Okay, you know if you're full or you're not,
Mm,
then you can actually make changes to what you're offering based on that. If you see, let's say, we actually had a situation where a camp saw it was like a sports camp, right? And they saw that their soccer camp is a lot more popular than their tennis camp. I have no idea why, specifically in that area. Okay, so as they were progressing, they decided, okay, since I know now because the barrier of entry is lower, I know that soccer camp is better. I'm leaving the tennis camp only with the number of students that I have, and I'm basically closing it down, and I'm opening another group for soccer. So they even further enlarged their revenue growth because they were offering the market what the market actually wanted. Now think of a situation where everything is upfront or everything is paid, let's say 2 weeks in advance. So
right.
if everything is upfront, a lot of people will fall off because they'll be like, okay, I can't pay this, so they don't even actually know what their clientele wants. On one hand,
Mm,
or if they do the situation of 2 weeks in advance, someone could register, pay the $50 or $100 registration fee, and then continue searching for a soccer camp. And then they found
right.
a soccer camp. They're like, okay, I'm registering for this soccer camp. They don't even notify the organization because life happens, and parents are busy. And then when the actual payment is demanded, they're like, oh yeah, we're not coming.
Right.
So from the operational standpoint, the finance gets much better. And not only the finance, but also the ability to structure the services that you're giving to your clients.
Yeah, it's like you're collecting data as the payments are happening. Very interesting. So how does this remove risk instead of adding risk? And what are more of the advantages of this model?
So there are a few ways that this removes risk. First of all, there's just-in-time financing, right? So you're getting all the funds in by the time the activity is being given, okay, or the service is being given to the clients. So it removes that. So think of it basically what you're basically doing in a way. You're allowing the method of like pay $50 registration fee and only pay everything by the time that you get the service or you start getting the service, and that would be a very problematic situation for most organizations, right? So you're lowering risk in that sense that you're getting just-in-time financing. From the parent's perspective, you're lowering. I wouldn't say that you're lowering risk, but you're lowering costs and you're enabling more families to participate in your programs because
Mm,
now the barrier of entry has been lowered considerably. Not only the only families that have high income can participate, but also families that need to spread out their payments, and that's fine.
yeah. Yeah, sports are expensive.
Yeah, sports are expensive, camps are expensive, education in general is pretty expensive. It's worth every dollar,
Yeah.
right? But it's expensive.
Yeah. So what does sustainable growth look like when cash flow stops being at the bottleneck?
What we have seen from organizations that work with us is that once you lower the barrier of entry, you get a situation where you grow between 20 to 30% in revenue.
Wow.
So, and we have case studies on case studies on our website that actually show this with numbers. It's amazing. It's like it's sort of like it's this is exactly why I love technology because sometimes it's like magic, right? You do
Mhm.
something with technology and you create a situation where in any other given state, it would be probably impossible to create that type of situation of 20 or 30% growth. I always joke with my finance team, I'm like, can you find a reg pack for me, for us, where it'll just like we'll just implement something and grow by 30%? That would be amazing, right? Um, but so that's the first thing that happens. You see between 20 to 30% growth of organizations that can enable the growth capacity, right? You do have organizations where they tell you, okay, I can't grow, I just can't. I don't have the facilities, I don't have the operations and so forth. And then normally what they do is they do 1 year like that, and since the cash flow issue disappears, right? Suddenly they can invest long term to grow their capacity to give
Mm.
services. So it creates a really unique situation where everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what about some misconceptions? So, what do most people assume about financing that just isn't true anymore? So, what's changing in terms of financing?
I would say that the first thing that we're seeing a lot, especially in the US, that installments has become a thing. Like
Right,
most clients expect installments to be possible, especially with high ticket items. Okay,
right.
that has become nearly, especially in our space, everybody, like after we've been rolling this out for like the last 5 years or 6 years, and it's gotten better and better and better. um, and now it has become a near standard where you need to enable installments. There are various ways of doing it, but doing it in a way that is a win-win situation is the best, obviously the best option. That's one. Other things that are connected to finance is that organizations do not want to deal with missed payments.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge issue of account receivables that exist in organizations. Um, in the service based business, account receivables is normally the average is between 20 to 30%. Now, that's crazy. Okay. That
That's
means
a lot of money.
that's a lot of money, especially considering that the profit margins are not that big. Okay.
Right.
You need to have a profit margin of 50% to not care about 20% account receivables, at
Mm-hmm.
least 50%. So now the a lot what we found is that a lot of times people don't pay not because they don't want to pay or they don't want to participate, but I call it because life happens, right? A
Mm-hmm.
situation happens, like I needed to pay the rent first, or I had a big down payment that I needed to give for something, and suddenly there's no money in the account, or I maxed out on my credit card abilities, and now only next week I can pay, even though today is the payment date. So what happens in most situations is that people need to. How do most people do installments? It's always funny to me when it's 2026 and people do this. They have an Excel sheet that they need to remember to charge these people on these dates, and they go into the system and they charge them like one by one. Okay, so that's great. That's great that they're doing that, but you know, people don't have time to try again and again and again. So when these life happens, situations happened. So let's say I have Lisa that needs to pay me $500 on February 2nd. I try, it doesn't work. February 3rd, I won't remember to try to charge Lisa, right? Or I will if I have just a few clients. But if I have 300 clients that I'm trying to charge, first of all, I'm wasting a ton of time just charging people. And second of all, I'll miss a lot of people that need to be charged.
Mm-hmm.
And it was declined or whatnot in that specific time that I tried. So it has become, I think, mandatory for organizations to have what is called a dunning system. A dunning system takes care of this type of payments on its own. What it does, and I'll explain how it does it in Regpack. Different organizations do it differently. Basically, it tries to charge the card 3 times a day for 14 days. So let's say Lisa needed to pay on the second, didn't pay 3 times on the same day, all failed. Fine. On the third, he'll try again. On the fourth, he'll try again, and so forth. For 14 days, 3 times a day. The assumption is the problem is that life happened. You do want to pay, but you just don't have something happened. And that's why you're not paying specifically now. And then suddenly on the 10th, I don't know, you got payment from your job or whatnot. You have the ability to pay, and we catch it. We catch it when that you actually were able to pay on the 10th. Great. Now we're going to charge your card on the 10th. And everybody's happy because you wanted to pay, you still wanted to participate in the program. The organization is happy. Okay, a few days late, not a big deal since it's an installment plan. Okay, and then it does that for 14 days. Now let's say you missed on, you had a really rough February. Like, again, life happens. Really rough February. So what happens in that situation is that come March 2nd, where you need to pay your next installment, instead of trying to charge you $500, it's going to try to charge you $1,000 for both payments. So that is what is called a full dunning system. So in finance, it has become, like, I would say, the bare minimum. It's like everybody expects a full dunning system to work, especially if you're doing installments. If you don't have a full dunning systems and you just like listing the installments, you basically didn't do anything. It's like, I
Right.
don't know. It's like baking a cake without putting it in the oven.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm picturing the Excel spreadsheet right now and someone going through every single transaction individually. And in the sales world, or like in a service-based business as well, when you're trying to charge someone's credit card and it declines, it's so frustrating having to chase that payment. Um,
Mhm.
how do you deal with, like, say it just doesn't go through? Maybe it's a credit card issue, maybe it's an expired credit card. How do you deal with those issues?
So let's differentiate. Expired credit cards. There is a way that that when your card expires, normally the bank sends you a new card, right? And when it does that, there's actually a database that allows organizations that have been approved by payment processors and the credit card companies to access that database and change the card that we're charging. So
Mm,
if your card just expires, from our perspective, nothing happened. We will be able to know the new card that you got and charge the new card. Everything just flows as usual. Okay, so that's fine.
right.
That's one. But if there's other situations, card has been stolen, card has been canceled, other situations that, okay, that's it. Like, this card is dead. You can't you can't charge this card. So in a situation like that, the system automatically sends out an email to the client, notifying them, and sends out a weekly report to the admin telling him these are the situations that we can't resolve. You have to communicate with your clients to put in a new credit card since this card has been canceled. That's one way. We do have organizations that utilize one of our features where you're allowed to put in 2 payment methods on file. And when you're doing that, if one fails, it fallbacks to the previous one.
Right. And so is it up to the client to put in that information, or is that up to the organization to gather that information?
The, organ, the organization can decide. The organization can decide if it's mandatory, it's not mandatory, if they can, like, it's just a toggle in the system where they decide what they want to do.
That's fair. So why is this different than a loan, or risky financing? Why does this work?
First of all, getting a loan, you need to get approved for a loan. Okay, so that's the first hurdle. The second hurdle is you're paying interest. The client is paying interest. So not only did you didn't lower the barrier of entry, you made it higher because now $1,000 is costing you 1,050. Okay, or
Right.
1,100. Okay, that's two. Three, from the organization perspective, they have no control over that. They're not going to give loans to their users, right? They they're not a financial institution. They don't want to do that. They want to sell.
Hmm.
Their premise is to sell. So the loan is I don't know. It's like comparing a horse to a car. I would say, like, the loan is basically very very. basic or very unimaginative in this situation compared to what I described that uses the so-called disadvantages of the service-based businesses to create a financial situation that is beneficial for the client and for the organization. I'll explain further. It makes total sense to take a loan if I'm buying a chair. I'm buying an expensive chair, $2,000 chair. The company that's sending me the chair, if they send me the chair and allow me to pay in installments, they're in a very tight spot if I stop paying. If I go and cancel my card, they can't do anything. I have the chair already.
Right. It's not like they're sending you one piece of the chair at a time. They're sending you the whole
Exactly.
chair. It's
It's
like
selling
this
the
month
whole
you get
chair.
the arm, the next month you get the leg rest.
And put it together on your own. So that's not how it works. So that's why the buy now, pay later, where you're basically getting a loan and it's financing and so forth, makes sense because then if I don't pay, there is a financial institution that will come after me to get the money from me, or they got some kinds of reassurances or some kind of they got connection to my bank account and so forth. So in order to be able to take the money if I stop paying, right?
Hmm.
But in this situation, you don't need that since I'm registering 6 months in advance. So by definition, the disadvantage turn into a huge advantage where there's no need for interest, there's no need for loans, there's no need to be, risk assessments. All of that just goes away.
Mm, right. So, how do you see the service-based economy evolving over the next few years? And since you started, how have you seen it evolve already?
Uh, One of the things that we found is that, and I'm talking specifically about the education service-based businesses. Okay, it's an evergreen. Okay, the more it becomes, the world becomes more complicated, more competitive, more demanding. The more people go to education now because that's your advantage in the market. Okay, I actually had this conversation with my employees um, last week, where they asked, "Is AI going to make a difference in how we work, or do we have to be worried about AI taking the position of the people in the company?" And I told them, like, if you are in a situation where AI can take your job, you didn't study enough, you didn't learn enough, you're not creative enough, you're not doing something that a human should be doing. If AI can replace you, in a way you're not human enough. Okay, because AI can be creative within very, very specific boundaries of what exists. It
Right.
can't create something from nothing.
Hmm.
Okay, so the same here. It's like if
Yeah, it lacks that
if
critical thinking ability.
exactly. So if you are so in that sense, from what I'm seeing, the educational space is just growing all the time, and it's because there's a lot more demand. Yes, it's changing in the way that people are being taught and what they're being taught. Because let's say, I don't know, when I'm not that young anymore, right? But when I was a kid, the teachers would demand that we just memorize stuff, or you had a test without an open book and so forth. And I see with my kids today, like that doesn't exist anymore because that's not how the world works anymore. You always have access to information, and you are expected to be able to analyze more
Mm,
than just remember, right? So from what I'm seeing, the service-based businesses are growing all the time. There are more of them, and I would say that they're at the forefront of not of technology, but of human technology, of how to make humans better, how to make them more creative, how to make them more able to do things that, considering we have all this information and all these analytical abilities at our fingertips, where does the human side come in?
yeah, that's exactly what AI is forcing humans to do is to go back to themselves and say, okay, what am I good at? What are my strengths? How do I evolve? Um, I think that's what AI is forcing us to do is to really hone in on our personal strengths, which is really interesting and exciting, but it's also really stressful for some people who really don't know what to do. Like imagine losing your job that you've known your whole life and now all of a sudden you don't have anything to do. You have to go back to those skills that, we were forced so long ago to push under the rug, right? It's an interesting time.
Yeah, it is very. I actually
Yeah.
like it. I think it's always a challenge, right?
Yeah, I agree. So why is financial flexibility becoming a competitive advantage?
Again, like I explained, it's like if you are able to lower the barrier of entry for your clients and allow them to order things through your company without creating financial strain on them, you have a much better chance of selling. Now, having a competitive financial advantage is huge because you might not be the best in your industry, right? But if you allow people to do it in a way that is doable for them, you will become the biggest.
Right. It's all about growth for sure.
It's all about growth, and more than that, it's about understanding the market. Okay, you can be yes, you can be the Ferrari, okay, where it's like okay, $1 million for a car and so forth, and you'll sell. I don't know how much they sell, but they probably sell like what 100,000 cars a year, maybe not even that, like 20,000, right? Or you can be the Chevrolet, or you can be the Mazda, where you're selling millions of cars, right? And here it's all connected to what people are able to do, and it has nothing to do with you can have a superior product, but if I can't pay for it and I can't finance myself with it, there's no way for me that I'll get the product. But if you have a superior product and you allow me to finance myself through time and then receive the product, then yes, I'm going to buy from you. The buying decision
Mhm.
is not if there's value. There's also budget constraints. There's also the ability to pay now. There are a lot of other constraints, especially when you're working with education for kids and so forth, or when you're working with organizations. We work with a lot of nonprofit organizations that work to benefit the community, and they're always under a budget constraint. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. So what will businesses need to survive and thrive moving forward?
They'll need to be able to change their ways. They'll need to be able to understand that not the way that they did it all the time is the way they're going to do it from now on. They need to understand that every year or every 2 years they need to rethink the way that they function, the way that they operate, the way that they finance. They need to be flexible enough to do that. Um, I don't remember who said it, but like change is the only constant in the world. Basically, embrace that.
Right, exactly. I love that. So now I would love for you to tell us more about what you do. What is RegPack, and give us a little more of an idea of the work that you are doing.
Sure. Um, I've been working on Regpack for a number of years now. It's grown to be a really nice and company that helps a lot of organizations worldwide. The best way to think of Regpack is Shopify for services. We create the ability for services to go online and offer their services online with the constraints that service-based businesses have: the onboarding process, the eligibility requirements, the conditional logic needs that need to happen, the financial abilities that they need to bring to the market. So we work with now the way that Regpack started is that I I created a system that has no constants in it as part of my PhD, and then I saw that in the service-based market, it's very fragmented. You have software for events, and you have software for courses, and software for schools. Every vertical, every segment has their own software, and the reason for that is because the technological constraints that you have to create all kinds of constants, and that's where RegPack came in and said we can consolidate the market and create basically a Shopify for services, something that can allow all services to use the same software in order to onboard their clients, take payments, and give the services.
Amazing. And where can people find out more information about you?
So the best way is the website. That's regpacks.com, regpacks.com. We also have, if you just search, Regpack on Google or Regpack LinkedIn, you'll find our company page. There's a lot of very good business information there for service-based businesses. We also have Instagram, which actually is very funny. I like our Instagram page. There's a lot of humor there. But I think those are the best ways through the website, through LinkedIn, through Instagram, and I publish all the time through Forbes articles. So if you just search my name, Asaf Darash, and there's a ton of articles that I wrote, very interesting and very helpful for service-based businesses.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation and for opening the door to these different types of things for service-based businesses. I think it's important that, like you said, people learn how to change because the world is changing, whether we like it or not. Like we have to go with the flow and learn how to pivot in order to be successful. So thanks for opening the door for that. Do you have any last minute thoughts on today's topic?
No, I think we talked about everything. It was nice talking to you.
Amazing. It was so fun talking to you and to our audience. If you've ever felt stuck with delivering first and worrying about it later, this conversation was for you. We will have the link to Regpack's information in the show notes for you to access their services so you too can provide the service, not worry, and keep growing. Until next time, take care, everyone.